Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back again to the class of consumer behavior. Yesterday, if you remember, in Unit 10, we finished up, we spoke about the influence of family. Today, we will start Unit 11 and we'll try to finish up Block 3 and then we will enter Block 4, and that would be the last block of this subject. Now, we will talk about in Unit 11 culture and subculture and what influence they exert on consumer mindset or on market. I'm sure you would have heard of this term called culture. And if I have to put the definition of culture in my simple way, it would be whatever you do, the way of living is your culture. When I say the way you live, it means the things you eat, the dress you wear, the interaction between your friends, the way you respond to certain stimulus or stimuli, that the collectiveness or the consolidation of all these factors, it forms your culture. However, we'll have a formal definition which I would like to share. Now, culture has got a big influence on an individual as well as on an organization or a group. Now, let's understand or see the definition of culture. It is mentioned in italics in bold. So, a formal definition would be a complex set of values. I would like you guys to read this thing. Ideas, belief, attitudes, and other meaningful symbols created by human beings to shape human behavior and the artifacts of that behavior as they are transmitted from one generation to another. The important thing is from one generation to another. Now, culture does not grow overnight. It takes time to evolve and to develop. Take an example. In India, we have a tradition of a student touching feet of their teacher. Now, this does not have cropped up, yesterday. It has been going on since Rig Veda time, when there was this concept of Gurukul and Guru Sishya Parampara was there. And it has evolved over the period of time, and still in India, especially in North India, people have this gesture of paying respect and reverence to their teacher and getting blessings. Why it is mentioned a complex set of values? Because it is complicated as individuals have different way of behavior with different people. I might be behaving a different way with my parents, but I would be behaving completely different with my friends. That's why it becomes a bit complex from a marketeer perspective in order to understand the culture, the pattern of behavior of an individual. And it has got a great impact, which we'll see. Meanwhile, we'll talk about the characteristic of culture. If somebody tomorrow asks you, define culture and its characteristics, इसके चरित्र क्या है, लक्षण क्या है? First thing first, culture is invented. I was giving an example of touching feet. Somebody would have thought. And that's why it was created. How you show your obeisance, your respect, your reverence to your teacher who is imparting knowledge to you. You do that by touching his or her feet, and in turn we get blessings. We get Ashirvad. And second is a set of learned responses. So when you touch my feet, I have to give you Ashirvad and blessing. Because this I have seen from my teacher, they would have seen from their teacher. So it has evolved over generation. So if somebody touches my feet, I have to say, Khush raho ya, whatever Ashirvad I want to give. And culture is shared. In a way, if tomorrow I leave my home and I go to a different city, I carry my culture. Because I said carry my culture, I told you in the previous slide that culture means the way I live. So there I would be interacting people from other cultures. So I'll be sharing my culture and they'll be sharing their culture. So both of us will have a rub of effect and will learn something of their own and they will learn something of mine. So it is shared and it is gratifying and persistent. Persistent is a consistent thing and gives me a sense of satisfaction. If my teachers give me blessing, I feel happy that I have got my back. My teacher has got my back. So that's very satisfying. If I touch feet of my father, my parents, and it's a dynamic and it adapts. When I say dynamic, it means it keeps on changing as the change happens in society. We all know change is the only constant thing. Unless society doesn't change or doesn't grapple with the changing situation scenario, it will be static and in no time it will be out of fashion. So culture keeps on changing as per the change in the time, as per the change in the society, and it is dynamic in nature with slight modification here and there, but it does change. And it is well organized and well integrated, obviously. Well organized means there are certain traditions which if I am following, that has been going across or coming through various generations, and the process remains more or less same. Example, again, touching of the feet of my teachers. I do touch my teachers' feet. So this is well organized. You take any tradition, other tradition, like your fooding habit. Now in India, the tradition is like, you should, in the morning you should do your morning chores. You should bathe and then you eat. And most of the people, they try to follow it. So well organized. Cultures are similar yet different. The second last point. Yes, in India we have a culture, but if I break India into states, now North Indians, they have got a different culture, but not completely different than a South Indian. More or less same, but yet there would be some difference between those two cultures. Okay, so though we are similar, take an example of what I have been giving, touching of feet. South Indians, they also do. North Indians, they also do. But take example of their attire. In North India, I haven't seen anyone wearing dhoti and kurta. In their marriage. But in South India, you can see. So though we follow or we have got similar culture, but yet there would be some things, some tradition would be slightly different. And the last but not the least, culture is a perspective. When I say perspective, means every individual has got a different way of looking at it. You might see, sir, what you're talking is all rubbish. I don't feel like, bathing before eating. I will eat and then I will bathe. Completely your take, sir. I would not like to touch my teacher's feet. I would like to say good morning or hi, sir. Completely your take. So every individual sees this cultural thing from his own perspective. And this perspective is again collection of information which you have seen, which you have gathered from your experiences, from your learning, and accordingly you see the culture. So these 7-8 points are the characteristic of culture. We understood the definition of culture, and this is the characteristic. We'll move. I hope this is clear. Now, cultural values. I hope you know the definition of values. If not, read the second point. Is a widely held belief that endures, that keeps on going over a period of time. And if I have got certain values, my responses towards certain stimulus, certain stimuli will be accordingly. Now, if you see, there are two types of cultural values. One is instrumental and second is terminal. Now, when I talk about instrumental values or the way you behave yourself, example would be broad-mindedness. Now, take an example of marriage. Yesterday we were talking about different types of marriage, different types of family. Remember we spoke about joint family, nuclear family, okay, extended family, and then live-in relationship family. Now in India, still the live-in relationship is not very much acceptable. But if you go to European countries or in America even, it's rampant. So this is how you behave, the way start your you behave regarding certain stimulus. You show your behavior about certain things. That becomes an instrumental values. And terminal values is also known as states of existence. An example would be comfort, security, pleasure. Now, my terminal values that I would be coming and teaching, I will be sharing my knowledge with my students because we are in the process of creating a knowledgeable society, a knowledgeable generation. And for that, even if I have to get up early in the morning, come over here well prepared, that's the way, that's my values. But somebody would like to relax, have comfortable life. They don't want to exert themselves. That's their values. They say, especially Jews. Jews are mostly, you find across India, but if I were to take their country's name, that would be Israel. Now, Jews, they have got this cultural values of working hard. And that's why I see every year, at least a couple of Israelis would be the Nobel laureate in any of the field, be it medicine, economics, literature. So there are certain cultural values like Indian values. We are a hard-working race. We are a country of people who believe that there is no shortcut. There is no better substitute than hard work. And that's the why we are one of the leading countries in the world. So cultural values I said is a belief which helps you to behave in a certain way. And every culture has got different set of values which are termed as core values. I was talking about the respect of what we Indians show to our teacher and to our elders. Same goes with Japanese. They have got immense respect for their elders. So that's like core values of our culture, of our Asian culture. Maybe in Europe, I'm not sure. They would be having a different core culture. So why we are talking about this thing? Because these cultural values and this culture, they have got importance to our market here. They understand that on Teachers' Day, Indian students, they want to do something good, something important, significant for their teachers. They will buy a gift, they will buy a present, they will wish him, they will give him flowers or her flowers. So accordingly, marketeers position their product and services. So here we understood the definition of culture, the characteristic of culture, two types of cultural values. So we'll move ahead. Cultural values and change. I have been talking about this thing, that the world is changing because world has become a family. When our Upanishad says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it means the world is a small family or maybe a big family. Now, because of this LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization, the borders of the country have become porous. So the mobility has increased. So people coming from Europe, working in India, we Indians going for studies and work over there. So there's an exchange of cultural values and culture. So as I told you, one of the characteristic of our culture is that it is dynamic in nature. It adapts. So it keeps on changing as the change in time, as the society demands. So it becomes important. If you see the last three lines, already sign of a change in the cultural values of respect for authority, religious and family ties, responsible consumption, etc., becoming apparent in the Indian society. I have been telling you this thing. That in India we value elders, we respect elders, we value our time, we are a hardworking race. So this cultural change or this change in time and society, they also tend to modify our values. I was talking about living relationship. Maybe North India or maybe eastern part of India is not very much prevalent, but you go to Mumbai, western part of India, cosmopolitan, still you would be finding there would be cases. Because if you don't change, you will be obsolete, you will be out of fashion in no time. So the marketeer also keep a track of these changes. And they try to modify their product and their services accordingly. Okay, I hope this is clear. We'll move. Look at this. The need for cross-cultural understanding of consumer behavior. Why it is important. Please go through this thing. Meanwhile, I will have a sip of water. Okay. Now, why it is important for a marketeer to understand different culture, nuances of different culture. There are companies who are MNCs or TNCs. MNC, you all know, multinational companies. The other name is TNC, transnational companies. Now they are into different countries of the world. If you got 203 countries or more than that, they are present. Now to act over there, to do business in those countries, I need to understand the cultural values, the culture. I'll give you an example. When McDonald's came in India, they were offering the same menu what they offered in America. They were serving beef and pork and non-veg. But in India, we don't go for this thing. So once they understood our culture, they modified, they tweaked their offering. And now we get all modified MACD, Indian stuff on MACD's menu. Another example would be momos. I'm sure everyone loves momos. Now that's a Tibetan dish. But you come to India, now we have got different kind of momos. We have got chow mein momos, we have got chocolate momos, you name it, we have got fried momos. So that the basic nature of momos has changed in order to adapt, in order to fit as per the Indian taste and Indian culture. So it becomes very, very important for any company, for any MNC or a multinational company to understand different culture if they are functioning in different part of the globe. If you see the ads, let's take an ad of a deodorant. Now the ad of a deodorant, what they show in America and Europe is completely different what they show in India because of our conventional approach. You're not very open to those kind of advertisement, those kinds of messages. That's our culture. Their culture, they are a bit open. So the marketeers, the company, the manufacturers have to modify as per the taste, of that country. I hope this is clear. We'll move. Now subculture. We understood about culture so far. Now, if you see subculture, I give you an example. In India, it has got like no culture. But if I break India into different states, now different states having a different culture, maybe different from overall Indian culture. Okay, now that is known as subculture. You see the definition, the last point. Subculture can be defined as a distinct cultural group that exists within a layered complex society as an identifiable segment in terms of its belief, custom, and values. I told you, homogeneous group, homogeneous group within a heterogeneous group. India, lot of diversity, land of diversity, may no heterogeneous group. But in that group, we people from, let's say, Bihar, we people from Tamil Nadu, now we become a homogeneous because we follow certain tradition, we follow certain fooding habit, we follow certain clothing. So even they become important because this subculture, they have got their own tradition, own festival. Like somebody is celebrating Pongal, somebody is celebrating, Assamese is celebrating Pihu, we are celebrating Makar Sankranti, Maharashtrians are celebrating Gudi Padwa. So these things become important because marketing understands that this is a time where people will buy, will make purchase because this is auspicious occasion for this particular subculture, this particular homogeneous group. So we understood culture. Now we understood subculture. I gave you an example that why they are important for a marketeer. They are important for a marketeer because you know the reason. They follow, though they are part of a bigger tradition, bigger culture, but they have got, if you remember when you're talking about characteristic of culture, we said similar yet different. So they share certain tradition which is different from the bigger heterogeneous group that is India. So they become important. Take an example of Bihar. The way we celebrate Chhath Puja. Biharis now, the eastern part of UP. Now wherever Biharis, they have moved. Now it is spreading, in every state also, and people are understanding the importance of this puja. But the way we celebrate is completely different. So we celebrate in a grand way, we make purchase, we buy fruits, there's a lot of purity and hygiene, which is not being celebrated, let's say people in Tamil Nadu. They hardly know about Chhath Puja. So from a marketeer perspective, Biharis become important during Chhath Puja. So they will provide the product and the services during that time for the purchase. So that's why subculture becomes important. I hope this is clear. So moving ahead, we'll talk about we'll try to summarize it. This unit number 11. Here we spoke about the culture. We also spoke about the characteristic of culture, the cultural values, which is core. Different cultures have got different cultural values as its core. We spoke about cultural, how cultural values are changed in current time. We spoke about two types of cultural values, that is instrumental and terminal. I hope you remember this thing. After finishing of culture, we came to subculture. We spoke about subculture, the definition, how subculture has a role to play in consumer behavior. We spoke about that. So subculture and culture, especially subculture, it helps a marketeer in segmentation also. And so once you do the segmentation, the job of a marketeer becomes easy because now he or she can target the audience, target the group, and position its product and its services accordingly or according to the taste of that group. So if a question comes tomorrow that how culture and subculture, in what way culture and subculture influence consumer behavior, influence or like have a role to play in marketeers' approach towards selling his or her product or services, I'm sure you can write answer. So thank you so much. We have finished up unit number 11. And by this, we have finished block 3. I will request you to keep checking the syllabus. Now we will move to block 4. And that would be the final block of this subject, consumer behavior. And by this time, I'm sure that you would have got some ideas about this topic, about the behavior of consumer. So without any further ado, I will move to block 4. And here we'll talk about the buying process. And the first unit is problem recognition and information search. Before we start, I will take a gulp of water. Okay. I hope you guys remember this, the process, the buying process. It has 5 steps involved. And that 5 steps started with, or starts with problem recognition. So here we'll understand that what are the ways how we identify problem. And once we finish up this, we'll be able to understand this topic very well. So moving ahead, look at this. I'm talking about the 5 stages. First thing first, problem recognition. I would like you guys to think that what are the things or what is one thing which you require as of now. Now don't say like, no, I want a break from the class. So your problem is that you don't have, let's say, you want to buy a nice jacket. Now that becomes, because your existing jackets are not in the best of the shape, they are tattered. They are like a bit in a tattered state. So the first thing you got is like you identified the problem. Then you spoke about information search, which jacket I can buy, and so hence and so forth. So here in this unit, we'll talk about problem recognition and information search. And the most important thing, that these 5 stages, they follow each other in most of the consumption pattern. In most of the consumption pattern, they follow each other. Like the first thing would be problem recognition, starts with information search, then evaluation of alternative, and so hence and so forth. I said in most, not in every consumption pattern, but in most. Moving ahead, look at this. Why it is important? You may ask, or fair enough, but why it is important to recognize the problem? I would say once the problem is recognized, your half job is done. Your half job is done. You would understand that why you need it and which kind of things you need it. It gives you an initial stimulus that you don't have a jacket, you need to make a purchase. So this is very important. It gives you clarity. It gives you clarity of your need. And if I have to talk from the marketeer perspective, it gives a marketeer a chance to trigger the latent need. I hope you remember need and latent need. Latent needs are the needs which are hidden, which is not realized by the consumer. For example, I need a leather, I need a jacket because it's a winter time. But the marketeer will trigger your hidden or latent need. that you need a jacket, fair enough, but you need a leather jacket. Now, obviously, leather jacket would be costly. And costlier, but it looks smart on you. And then you realize, yes, even I want to buy a leather jacket. Now, what happens? Initially, your budget was 5,000 rupees. But if you have to buy a leather jacket, it will increase to 10,000 rupees. Now, you got a leather jacket which you wanted, which you did not realize in the beginning, but because of the marketeer advertising method or that stimulus it offered you, he made more money on the purchase. So from both the perspective, problem recognition is very, very vital. From a customer perspective, it gives you a clue what you want. It clears the need. It provides the clarity. Okay? And marketeers, it helps marketeers to trigger your latent need, which will push you to make a purchase. I hope this is clear. We'll move. Now an overview. Let's understand problem recognition in a better way, in a simpler way. It says like problem recognition is a bit of complicated process because I said once you recognize your problem, your half of the job is done. It might be simple or might be complicated or complex. That is in accordance to the situation, as per the situation. Buying a leather jacket is fair enough, is fine. But let's say buying a car, because in your town there is hardly any public service or public buses. So either you have to buy a bike or a two-wheeler or four-wheeler. So that becomes a complex problem. A simple problem can be dealt, very easily, can be tackled very easily. Take an example of like, I have no salt in my or no sugar in my home. Now this is easy job. There I don't have to wreck my brain. I will simply go and buy because I'm into a habit of buying this thing regularly. But when I talk about, let's say, buying a two-wheeler or four-wheeler, buying a house, now that becomes a complex problem. And there I need to recognize it. Do I need to buy, or maybe like I can hire, or maybe I can take help of my friend. If I talk about house, maybe I can take home, house on rent, because obviously getting rent or paying rent will be cheaper than buying a house. But these things, they become complex because of its nature. And it requires a lot of deliberation, lot of thinking, which is not required in that simpler problem recognition. Simpler problem recognition because you are in habit of doing this thing day in, day out. You are having, you are dealing with that thing like buying your daily, household stuffs, your grocery items. So that becomes a simple problem. Complex problem, I have already told you, which requires your energy, requires a lot of money. So that becomes important. So far we have understood in this unit 2, the buying process we are talking about. We understood about the 5 stages. In this unit, we will be talking about first, the problem recognition and information search. Moving ahead, look at this. What exactly is the threshold level in problem recognition? Now, you might be asked, or somebody will ask you, please explain threshold level in problem recognition. Now, I would like you guys to read this thing. It refers to the minimum amount of tension, energy, or intensity which is necessary for the feeling to occur. Very, very important. It doesn't require a lot of energy. It doesn't stress you out. It is quite a minimum tension it gives. The second point says are directed not only towards creating a gap between the current and desired states of mind of consumers, but they also towards increasing the tension level where need recognition is ensured. It's very, very important. I was giving an example of a jacket. Now, buying a simple jacket and buying a leather jacket, I told you the difference that your need is hidden, and marketeers from their advertisement they have triggered that latent need. So they haven't stressed you out, but they simply suggested you that if you take this thing, you look more handsome, you look more cool, or you look cooler. So it creates the threshold level creates a gap, and that is a desired gap between your current states, that is buying a simple jacket and buying a leather jacket. The best example would be if my neighbor buys a television, 55 inches television, with all smart TV, all the features of a smart TV, and I don't have. Or the other example could be, I'm sure you would have seen when you move on the road that a car will have a sticker in the back that you are following the SUV of the year. Or you see a hoarding where company, let's say Hyundai, saying, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Delhi, for buying 5 lakh unit of, let's say, Hyundai Creta. Now, because you have no SUV, you have no Creta, but that creates attention that there are people who are buying it. My neighbor has bought a 55 inches TV, which I don't have. So this tension is known as, or the energy, the minimum energy required to create this tension is known as threshold level. So if you start comparing, it's always a bad thing to compare yourself with somebody else, because everyone has got their own life. They face their own problems and they've got their own issues to tackle. But that's not taken sacred by marketing. They would like to compare you. And once you are compared, and if you are lacking something in compared to somebody else, it triggers, or it gives a stimulus. It triggers your desire in boss. Even I need this thing. If I want to look cooler, if I have to, be part of that 5 lakh consumer base of Hyundai Creta, I need to buy Hyundai Creta. So this is how they trigger, and this energy or effort which a marketeer requires, in creating this tension, that is known as threshold level. I hope this is clear. We are talking about buying process. We spoke about buying process. We will talk about problem recognition. There we spoke about simple problem recognition and complex problem recognition. In this slide, we spoke about threshold level, what exactly it is. Now we'll move to the next slide and look at this. So far, we have understood the buying process of a consumer. But I have told you that even business organization, they also consumes and they make a purchase. So when I say That problem recognition is important because it gives you the clarity about your need, about your headed need. But do you think it is so easy to identify it? And especially with the organization where multi people are involved, multi levels of decision makers are involved. They have got a long list of rules and regulations and procedures. So there it becomes difficult from problem recognition. I'll give an example. Take an example that a company would like to purchase a photocopier machine. Okay? A photocopier machine of, let's say, Canon. But there are people in the organization who believe that buying a photocopier machine is a waste of time or a waste of money, not time. I mean, the best would be to go and get the things photocopied from outside. So why to invest money and buy a machine of your own when we can have photocopied from outside? Now there are people of different opinion. The first set of people will say buying your own machine will give you freedom, though it involves an initial investment of, let's say, a big amount of money. But after some time, your cost will come down because when you are having your own photocopier machine, you don't have to pay money outside. The other set of people will might say, fair enough, but in the beginning you have to pay, let's say, 50,000 or 60,000 rupees. Why to pay it? We don't have so much of money. So keep the practice of getting photocopied from outside. Problem is what? There are people of different mindset. When I talk about consumer, it's very easy. I have to buy a jacket, I will take a call. It's my money, I have to buy a jacket, a simple jacket, or like a leather jacket. But in an organization, when there are people who are involved, there are many people, many layers of people. There are different departments, purchasing department, finance department, marketing department. And every layer would have a different set of psychic, different set of thinking. So to convince everyone for the same goal becomes an issue. If you see the second point, it says the same thing. So you have to make a call, you have to make a choice. That what is good? Going for your own thing? Or taking the services from outside the way I've been doing it? And in this industrial issues, industrial purchasing behavior, the recognition of problem can be triggered or can be result of external as an internal stimuli. How? Internal stimuli, most of the companies are using, let's say, ERP based software, enterprise resource planning software. And that's why they are more efficient. Their cost is less than us, which adds to the price of my service or my product. So if my competition, they are using it, obviously, boss, if I have to compete with them, I have to be like them. I have to make purchases, the things what they purchase, or better things than them. Internal stimuli, I just spoke to you. People can say, we don't have our own photocopier machine. That's why we have to go out. But outside, there is a huge queue. So we lose time. And this guy is charging more. So in order to save time and cost, we need to buy our own thing, even though the initial investment would be a bit high. But that's fair enough. So again, you have to take a call. Though you have got, no, you have got external as well as internal stimuli, but you have to take a call. So that's why it becomes a bit of difficult if somebody asks you to do a difference between or to compare between an individual, a consumer purchase and an organizational purchase. You can say this is a very vital point. As in organization purchase, there are people who are involved in every level. There are multiple people involved. So it becomes very, very difficult to point out towards one problem unanimously. So that's why it is important. I hope this is clear. We'll move. Now we'll talk about information search. So far we have spoken about problem recognition. Now we'll talk about information search. Now if you remember the 5-stage process, once you recognize the problem, once the problem is clearly identified, then you start gathering information to search for the solution of your problem. Now, when we say, again, your information depends upon the nature of the product and services. If it involves something, let's say a consumer durable, maybe an automobile, or something which requires a lot of involvement in terms of your time, in terms of your money, your resources. So that will be always time-taking process. And you tend to find those information for the solution of the problem, which would be, a long time solution where you can get immense satisfaction because you are putting in so much of a resource. It's not a day-to-day affair. So I would be looking which can continue for a longer period of time and which will give me a longer duration of gratification and satisfaction. So if this is the case, if the things or the services which involves lots of resources, I would like to put more energy, to gather more information, to select different brands, to check different brands, and also the suppliers, the vendors which are into this business. It might happen that one vendor is selling me, at a higher rate. So I would like to go to a different vendor who might be giving me some discount. So this should be very, very important. So as far as information search is concerned, when there are things in product which are of durable in nature, I should be putting more effort, purposeful effort to get more information, to name of the companies, the brands, the dealer, the vendors, which are dealing to that product and services, so that once I order the product or the services, which is a problem for me, I should be happy, or I should be gratified and satisfied with my purchase, and that should continue for a longer period of time. So this is about information search. We spoke about problem recognition. We spoke about information search. Now we would like to summarize this unit, Unit 12 of Block 4. where we are talking about the process of purchase. As we said, all these five-step process, they follow in sequence. The problem recognition is important because it solves your 50% of the work. The advertiser's job is to create or to make you identify the gap between your existing state and desired state. And once you do that, once your problem is recognized, the information search, the sources from where you are going to get the information. A marketeer, especially in organization buying behavior, organization, they try to select from different vendors, different sources, so that they get the best possible thing, the best possible product or services, so that the satisfaction gets endured over a period of time. With this, we have finished up Unit 12, and this is the first unit of Block 4. Tomorrow, we'll try to finish up Block 4 and the subjects of consumer behavior. So I would like to thank you in joining in. I hope by this, the subject called consumer behavior is very much clear to you. Tomorrow, we'll try to finish up the remaining units and the remaining blocks. Till then, thank you so much once again. Namaste.